Hello. Hi guys. So as I'm sure many of you guys are, I'm a huge RuPaul's Drag Race fan and I have been watching it non-stop since being stuck at home. I finally got to All Stars 2 where Tatianna does her iconic talent show performance and her costume was just a thing of beauty. As soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted to recreate it, so that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. For those of you that have seen All Stars 2, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, but for those of you that haven't, I'm gonna post it somewhere on the screen here for you to see. I just love the look of the blocking that's done with the pleather straps and the nude underneath, even though on her it looks more like a cream color, but I'm gonna be using nude. And I just love the shape it gives her body, so I don't know why, I just felt the need to make it. I am contemplating doing more costume recreations, so if you do really like this video, please let me know down in the comments. And if you want to, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you want to, don't forget. Okay. To get started, I brought out my J. Lee 3891 pattern to use as my block. Since I wasn't making this for anyone specific, I went with size R and traced all of my pattern pieces onto tracing paper. From there, I cut the pattern pieces out and taped the bodice pieces to the bottom pieces to make complete front and back pattern pieces for the leotard. Now I need to change the cut of the neck since this block pattern is designed to have long sleeves and a higher neckline. All I did was take my pencil and draw in my new V-neck spaghetti strap design and cut the back straight across. I make sure the peak of the V-neck in the front where the straps will connect is about 1/8 of an inch wider than the elastic I'll be using to finish off the edges. Once I'm happy with the pattern, I cut out my changes and then cut out both pattern pieces from nude stretch lining. From there, I lay the right side of the nude lining to the wrong side of the nude mesh, pin it in place, and cut it out. Since the black strapping along the neckline and the leg holes are curved, I need to draw these directly onto my pattern to make sure they lay flat when I go to sew them in place, which is what I'm doing here. Then I cut them out, lay them on the pleather, and cut a pair of each pattern piece, making sure they're opposite of one another. I also go in and cut multiple 2-inch straps of the pleather fabric since I will be freehanding the rest of the strapping onto the costume. Now that all of my fabric is cut, I head to my machine and baste the lining and mesh layers together around the edges using a zigzag stitch. With the front and back panel layers basted together, I lay the pleather strapping on the panels and pin them in place once I'm happy with the layout. From there, I take the panels to my machine and I stitch the edges of the pleather strapping to hold them in place. For this part, I used a zigzag set to a width of 4 and a length of 2.8. Normally, I would have used a bobbin thread that is the same color as the lining fabric so the stitching doesn't look so stark against it, but since I just made this for fun, I just left it black. I'm not sure where all of my footage went for this part, but basically I cut a 2-inch line down the middle of the V-neck so I'm able to add stretch binding. Then I take one of the pleather straps and laid it right sides together along each side of the V neckline. I zigzag it in place and then I serge elastic on top of where I just zigzagged. Then I create a binding by folding the pleather over the elastic and double stitching it in place using my twin needle. Then I go in and cut off the excess fabric on the underside. I show the binding process in way more detail later in the video, but I just wanted to give some context as to what's going on here. Once both sides are done, I sew the cut I made at the center of the V back together, creating a dart-like seam. The seam didn't come out perfect, and normally I'd go back and fix it, but I'll be covering it with a pleather strap anyway, so I just left it as is and moved on. For the strap going up the middle, I made a 1-inch vertical cut to the middle of the strap. Then I laid it down the middle of the front panel and wrapped the 2 sides of the cut around the binding at the bottom point of the V-neck. Then I laid the rest of the strapping in place and pinned it down. Once again, I took it over to my machine and zigzagged it all in place. Once all of my strapping is sewn down, I pin the front and back panels together at the sides and the crotch and then serge it using a 4-thread overlock. Tatiana's costume has 2 straps covering the side seams, so all I did was pin 2 more straps over the seams and again zigzag them in place. Okay, so to make this binding that goes all the way around the back and creates the spaghetti straps, I need a long piece of pleather. To do this, I pin 2 pleather pieces right sides together and stitch them using a straight stitch. Then I place the seam at the center back of the costume with the right sides together along the top edge and pin the rest in place from there. Then I took it to my machine and zigzagged the pleather in place along the top edge, making sure to leave lots of excess fabric off each side since these will become the spaghetti straps. Once this is finished, I take it to my serger and lay elastic along the same edge I just zigzagged and serge the elastic in place. Since I'm already at my serger, I also take elastic and insert it into the wrong side of the leg holes. For the binding along the V-neck and straps, I take it back to my machine and fold the pleather over the attached elastic. Then I use my twin needle to sew along the right side of the binding, which creates a nice two-line cover stitch. Your excess fabric should be on the back side of the spaghetti straps and wrong side of the costume. Once I'm done with my binding, I cut off the excess fabric from the underside, and that's all there is to it. For the leg holes, I simply fold the fabric inwards over the elastic that I serged in place and again use my twin needle to finish it off. With the twin needle, it's important to make sure you're stitching with the right side of the fabric facing up. Lastly, I put the costume on my dress form and pin the straps in place. Then I take it back to my machine and attach them using a straight stitch. For crystals, I used Preciosa non-hot fix in sizes SS20 and SS30. I put E6000 into a syringe with a fine tip and dotted little dabs of glue onto the nude parts of the costume. Then I used my crystal katana to pick up the crystals and put them in place. After I glued all of my crystals down and let them dry, this was the final look. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.